Welcome to Good Vibes Anonymous. Welcome to Good Vibes Anonymous. And today we've got some special guests with myself, and we're going to talk about different things. We welcome your comments below, and please share any thoughts you have. So the format is a kind of quick fire word association, saying the first thing that comes to mind. For example, and I guess we're going to say no comments if not needed. So thoughts on ancestors. First thought that comes to mind with ancestors. Mine thought is that they live within us.
My thought is that I feel that they within me as well, and they're very powerful and give a very good guidance.
Exactly, that's the same way I feel as well. Always receiving guidance, and as long as your mind and heart is open to it, you can feel them and they can direct you as as you move throughout your life. Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Our ancestors are here forever.
Forever.
Thank
And
you.
walk with you. Some ancestors are good and some ancestors are bad, but hopefully you pick up the good ones within you.
For real.
Okay, next, your thoughts on, first thing that comes to mind with achievements and success stories from ancient to now, pyramids and pioneers, merchants of books. Any thoughts on that? First, achievements, first thing that come to mind.
Achievements. You go first.
So my thing, when I think of achievements, the first thing I think of is literally whenever people see the pyramids and they cannot understand how it was built, and they think about alien life forms. For me, I'm thinking that's why I believe in a higher power. And the only reason I believe that, and it satisfies me, is that we're great, why would we doubt? If we were so comfortable and great, we wouldn't doubt our abilities and our achievements.
Yes.
So when I look at the pyramids, I'm like, yeah, there's probably enslavement involved. There's probably giving thanks, and it was a feat of engineering.
Yeah.
So that was my first thinking when I see that. Yeah,
well, even to this day, there are certain things, an example like the pyramid, they still can't understand how they were put together and built. So, you know.
When I hear achievements linked to the example that you gave, the pyramids, the first thing that sort of comes into my mind is that an achievement, it's our achievement as a community, but a lot of people don't even know it. Even our own people sometimes don't even know that it's our achievement. So at the same time, for me personally, I think about, yes, this is what we did, but then at the same time, it comes up in my mind that a lot of people don't even know, or they don't even believe that it was us. And the misconception that they gave us in the beginning, even up to now when we watch movies about Egyptians and stuff like that, it's not really clear that it's our achievement, you know? So if you're not aware of these things, then it might be misachieved to what we achieved.
Exactly. I mean, you know, a lot of history, as you said, has been rewritten, misdirected. You know, especially when it comes to the black and white, the old argument. You know, a lot of our hidden secrets and powers and, you know, things that we achieved have been hidden from us for many years. It's still being hidden from us. And as black people need to, you know, go back and look at our history, see where we come from, see the achievements we've made, look at it for yourself, and you know, that will allow us to excel forward.
Next is motto of your country, village, or tribe.
Motto.
I don't know if my country, maybe it's, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right, but I'm not sure what the motto is or if there is a motto, but I can say that there might be a concept of how we live. Maybe that's the motto in a sense. In my country, it's quite split in a sense, because some people are quite spiritual, some people are quite religious, and that doesn't always go together. So even though they have the same aim, to be honest, but they're going around it in the it's basically really peace in the world, to be honest, and be the best that you can be, really and truly, and unity as well. But it's two different concepts, isn't it? So, but
yin and yang.
It's not really yin and yang in that kind of way, to be honest, depending on where you are, because I think that they both have a similar aim, or let's say it's wrong. They have a positive aim, maybe not the same aim, but they're not really opposite in a sense. But obviously, they're always, like how I was raised, for example, I was raised with both. But then I pulled more to the spirituality side, and the religious part sort of, I left on the side. But initially I was raised with both, and that worked well because there was no contradiction how I was raised with those two, because they were both accepted, and we used both of the rituals or the traditions, whatever, in the same household, and it worked well, to be honest. I just chose to go one way because of what I experienced and believe.
For mine, it's Edo State, which previous people and viewers and listeners will know about, and the one I know is like heartbeat of a nation, which is like the kind of characteristic of the people, and I was always told like no fear, which I think bears well in a lot of things.
I suppose with with Jamaican folk, being from Jamaican descent as well, it's out of many we are one. So that's a nice saying to let people know that we're all connected in one way or the other. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. The next one, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the words family tree?
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. And a lot of time to figure out. Because there is some disruption some point that you cannot go further, but definitely powerful.
Yeah.
And it gives you sort of a backbone, I think, just to know that part.
Know where you're coming from, so you know where you can go to. So I suppose, yeah.
Family tree. I think I'm curious. I still want to do a kind of DNA ancestry, because I think there's a lot that's still buried and still to be unburied. I mean, I kind of know. I just have an unexpected thing, mainly because reading and knowing pre-enslavement and the kind of so-called history, but the living history, definitely know that migration patterns started from BC, and in terms of merchant and mercantile and trading. So I have a feeling that it goes beyond, if there's humanity in Africa, I know it goes beyond that, because there's so many different influences within me. I'm just like thinking, why? I never heard that when I was growing up. There's kind of a feeling towards that, whether it's kind of like Arabic or kind of Latin America and stuff like that. And like you said as well, it's we're connected, so for a reason. So I'm very curious to know about that ancestral.
Well, there was a lot more freedom of travel before it was carved up, and so there was always a lot of influence of people traveling around over the years.
Definitely.
May that continue. So polygamy, formal and informal. Why are you laughing?
No comment.
But for me, to be continued. But for me, I had a question mark in formal and informal, because for me it's just one thing. So it's what is formal, what is not, what is, if something is formal, then it can't be informal, because then it's not what it is. It's
a kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, because so polygamy, there was that kind of necessity of marriage in terms of different families, whether it's to do with a bridging of for class, for convenience, for land, but also mainly for provision, but in a formal setting, seen in the eyes of the village, the community, and law in different countries, between, i.e., for those that don't know, of course, it's a man who's able to marry many women, as opposed to polyandry, where a woman can have as many husbands, if that still exists. So informally, the joke is there's a lot of things that you see online, and people talk about this in a very casual way without knowing that there is a very important root in all of this. You know, look it up. We won't go into it too much detail, but informally is when people are saying there's guys that said, "Oh yeah, I could handle many women. I could have." You can barely handle one woman informally. Yet you want to be going carrying the load. Your load and different loads of different wives. It's okay, you carry on. So to be honest, it vexes me when it's talked casually. So it's kind of tongue in cheek that I said informal.
Yeah.
Because there's a casual kind of multiple.
Yeah, but to me,
on.
for me, I squash that because it's nothing to do with the actual words. Because it's just like I want to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
For me, it takes away the whole concept of what it is. So that's why I'm like, it's not even info, but people just chat whatever they want to chat. And yeah, so it's like it's definitely not polygamy what they are talking about. So
cool. And also in terms of, I know that there are very compatible people out there that can actually bring a lot in a multiple people in one household. I think it is actually possible with different types of things. People have different kinds of needs. So I'm not even like rebuking or dismissing that, but it's the whole kind of your own, like you're saying, that there's only the sexual aspect of things. Oh, exactly. I need you for Monday or Tuesday. I'll kind of have rotating door turnstile and I'll jump for that room. Or like you were saying about just breeding, you know, different options. I can kind of, you know, it's not dismissive to say that it is actually possible to have different people having your different needs. But what is not acknowledged is the men will catch feelings. Don't pretend you don't catch feelings. Yeah. Okay? Because and the women has a right to. Some women might not even care. But I just find it funny, some of the comments I see online, and then vexing the other comments, because you can barely look after yourself, male child, than anyone else. So anyway, the word association, next thing that comes to mind, parent and family. What rituals, heritage, knowledge, values have been passed on to you? You can name just one that comes to mind first.
I suppose for me is never give up. You know, trying to achieve and strive. It's a lifetime thing, and you know, life is full of a lot of obstacles. It's about whether you can overcome them, keep jumping over them, keep moving, you know, because all these obstacles, most of them are temporarily. So, you know, you can always move forward with that. So that's one thing I'm grateful from from my descendants that have given that to me. And
Values. God, I should have thought about this before I did it, but it's supposed to be spontaneous. Values in terms of respect. There are a lot of times where I respect my elders, whether they're educated or bachelors of and masters and things like that. There's other times where there's a values of respecting your elders, and I actually get that. They've been around longer; they should know.
Holding
some
your
know
tongue,
more.
I think it's called.
Holding your tongue.
Yeah, that's what it's called. I don't think it's less about respect; it's about holding your tongue.
It's like
just don't talk. It's tolerating. So then sometimes you're thinking, I thought to myself, as a parent, I'm just thinking, is it respect elders or don't question anything they do? Because it's just easier and not to explain, you know, so that kind of thing. So what's it called? Yeah, I can't think of any else at the moment.
I think for me it's a very interesting one because I don't think there was anything specifically said to me, but I think it's just they led by example by doing specific things. So being kind to one another, and as was mentioned before, being respectful, but that might just have been like your child and you don't speak and you just listen and you just pretend that you listen, or you just do what people want you to do. So it's yeah. In what perspective do you put that actually?
It should be
So
earned.
it should be earned.
It should be earned.
But as a child, you just had to, as what you were saying before, respect. But it's just like maybe really and truly, it's just like you just, you know, just like listen and just do whatever you've been told. So, and as a child, well, what I was, there's no earning when you're a child. You're just a child, and you just do what the elder says to you. There's nothing you can do to earn it. Only when you get to maybe a specific age, where you know when you're a teenager and you shift into adulthood, they start to speak to you in a different way. And but before that, you was a child. We're unfamiliar.
As long as the elders don't treat you as a child until you're 70, then
Yeah.
it's all good. So the next one, ancestral spirituality, which you touched on earlier, religion and faith.
Yeah. First thing that I think about is that it really comes from the same source. It's just that I think one of them has been, how you call it, doctrinated? How do you say it? It's changed. Yeah, indoctrinated. So, but I think the source is, it comes from the same source. That's the first thing that comes into my mind.
Source being?
Well, that's a difficult thing I feel, because I think I call it the universe, but someone might say it's God, someone might say it's Yah or Allah or whatever. So for me, it comes from one source, and I think I think that's where I was sort of touching on before. It's like they probably have the same similar positive outcome in their minds, but the way they go about it is in a different way, and one is distorted because it's been interrupted by people taking stuff out, putting stuff in, or and changing stuff around for their own benefit. But I think that getting in touch with yourself, for me, that's the main source. And yourself is ancestral links as well, and it goes all the way down to wherever you want to go with your family tree at some point.
Yes.
So it goes all the way down. Everything is one. So for me, it starts from that, but they're quite depending on how you want to look at it.
Sweet, because I love listening and learning from different people, even if I don't feel comfortable. All I know is that no one has the answer, but you might not know who is right. I mean, when I'm hearing people believe in a second coming, then I'm thinking to myself, well, would you know the second coming if you saw it? Would you be respectful? Would you listen to what was said if it went against what you were taught? All these kind of things. And I love the questioning. And the reason why I don't subscribe to any religion is because there's not room for questioning, but it's like rational questions. Okay, you're telling me this, and I'm asking, oh, how did that come about? And since I was 9, I've never wanted to be involved, because it's fine. Just say you don't know.
No.
I'd have more trust if you actually said you don't know, because I believe there's a place for guidance, religion, coming together, and we can learn from each other. I do love that. I think it can be a beautiful thing. But when it's forced upon and it's for the greater good of the pocket, the ego, and things, and not for the people, when it comes to all kinds of, especially female reproductive rights and all kinds of stuff, you are not taking into account a person's situation, male or female. So where I'm at the moment, I'm open for learning. I doubt I'd ever subscribe to any religion or pledge allegiance to one. I do believe that I pray daily, mainly to give thanks. I believe there's a higher power for the reasons I gave before, that there's so many things that we cannot create as humans. And we're looking around still flailing or just accepting in wonder the wonderment. So that's why I'll always give thanks for stuff, being able to give birth, being able to help each other, that soul thing. So I do love that for that aspect.
And it's difficult when people start to say, oh, you should in different religions, when they start to say, oh, can't do this, you can't do this, and there's no explanation, because that's how I shift as well. When I was like probably similar age as you, maybe around 10, I went to church and someone said something, when you go to Sunday school, whatever, and I asked why, and she just said to me like, "Oh, you don't ask why, you just believe." And I'm thinking, why would I just believe? It's like I don't understand, because I don't understand. So I was, from that moment, I just switched off.
Exactly.
To be honest, and then that was literally it.
Yes, exactly.
For me, and it's just interesting that, in one it's really like the good and the bad, but when you look at the other side, the spiritual side, there's no good and bad. Everything is one. It's fluid. There's no right and wrong. There's no good and bad. Really, it's just experiences. Things. It's just life. And sometimes when you start thinking about that, things feel lighter in life as well, because you don't see it as a good and a bad thing, or I should feel this, should feel that.
That's it.
Yeah, it changes your perspective in life.
Yeah.
But it's obviously what I believe.
Yes. But then there's this thing about, and I like it, because you don't know, then contradictions arise, there's a kind of conflict that arises. So all I know is I can keep it simple and just give thanks for small blessings and all the blessings.
Yeah.
So like, for example, when there's, the hypocrisy for me with some people, you're only good when you're in church, and you don't help people when elsewhere, kind of thing, that are different to you, or you're against LGBT or trans, and you don't mind someone being killed, or you'd enable someone to be killed, but you're a Christian, or you're a Muslim, or you're this, you're that. Just say your prejudice, and you have hate in your heart. Don't hide behind. Because the things about it is like, you can't escape different stories, and they're beautiful stories, psalms, guidance in the different sacred books and texts. But the thing is, I don't need humans and people who anoint themselves to know that there's good. So, you shouldn't have to be, you need guidance, because if you didn't have that and some sort of like scripture to show you what's good and bad, and a conscience, or it's the kind of thing where some people only go to, I think it's very, I'll be respectful. For example, go to church, christening, funeral, and if someone has invited me, I take that, but I take it seriously. Even if I'm not religious, you welcome me into that place. What I find disrespectful for me is if you're going to a place and you're only there for networking, or you've never been to a church, a mosque, but you're there to christen your child, or you're there to give baptism, or you're there to do the snip. These kind of things, and I don't like the hypocrisy. And you're so holier than thou. we've all got our flaws. I just don't like that kind of looking down when you are a total hypocrite. It's like, and it's weird, and also just the whole scan of like the child abuse in different places, and or you don't have trust in your own people, but you trust your child. Like the different kids being locked up. Why are you surprised that there's different places for indoctrination or cleansing? Like the people in their forced conversion from one religion to the other. Why would your the person that you pray to, the higher power that you pray to, why would they ask you to kill another human being or torture them or abuse them? This kind of thing, the unquestioning of it is why I can't do what you need to do, but why does there have to be harming?
Exactly.
So that's why I cannot be part of that. So the next one, first thing that comes to mind is in terms of passing on and death. Do you have any, well, you don't have to share it because it might be private, but do you have any thoughts on how you'd like to be buried, or if you want to be buried?
Cremated.
Yeah?
Yes.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, if they decide to bury me at the end of the day, I mean, I'm dead already, right? So there's nothing you can do.
There's that.
Because for me, it's like, there's this whole big thing of how people want things to be done when they're dead. But it's like, you're dead. So if someone does something else, then there's nothing much you can do about it. So for me, cremation is what it's going to be. But also because, when you're buried, then first of all, there's extra cost when you're buried, and I can understand that people feel that when you're buried and there is I call that, there's a grave, people can come to you and say, pay respect and stuff like that. But for me, it's such an extra thing for people to do. People can commemorate me, however they want, with a picture in their hearts, and you save the money to be buried, or not. I mean, you have to pay obviously when you're cremated as well, but save the space or save people to to come and put flowers every week or whatever.
Well, for me, when I finally pass, for me, although I have been born and lived in Britain all my life, I also feel that I shouldn't be left here in this country. And my plans is, if financially I can do it, not necessarily take my whole body back to where I truly come from, and purely because something that Stephen Lawrence's mother said once they had to bury their child. They said basically they will not allow her child to be buried in England purely because of the treatment of how they totally dismissed the whole case and just washed over it. So he was buried in Jamaica. And for me, similarly, living here all my life and everything, and the typical thing of kind of racism and kind of way people treat you as you're moving through your life. Although you may have been born here, you're not necessarily going to ever be accepted here. Now, you obviously have to do your best, and but my choice would be actually to be sent back home, find my closest tribe or whatever, and lay myself to rest down that way. Yeah, that's my dream actually. Obviously, it won't be easy for people that you leave behind, because obviously, typically, most Black people are not cremated, but that may be an option I would have to look at, because obviously it's the terms of cost. But yeah, find the kind of like village elders as close to your ancestors as possible and take it from there. But I would expand on that another time.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a different idea.
That's a different idea. It's so weird. It hasn't come to the front of my mind yet. I don't know how, but like yourself, I always think I'm a spirit of the world. So I wouldn't have thought. I don't actually mind. It's the being considerate to, as you said, those left behind, and it's about them. But even if there was all the money in the world, I've always loved my family who are in different countries to be a part of the good and the bad in life.
Yes.
All the celebrations. But because that's not possible, it would be what's best. And I was even thinking there's someone that we know, and there's people that do the water rituals. So it's basically whoever, as you said, whoever actually carries that kind of that carries on the rituals of our ancestors, and as you say, the closest one, that kind of, if the physical, as you say, if the physical has been laid to ground, and you're going to feed the worms and stuff like that, and make the funeral directors happy, which is what goes against mine. But it's closure, or it's somewhere for family to feel connected to you. And like organ donation, I will always think of family first and afterwards, because they're the ones who have to stay. But in a parallel world where there are 0 Fs to give, it would be like a party, native attire, celebration, party. But in a spiritual way, to be connected to the ancestors, give thanks for the life given, give thanks to family who supported, even those that don't, give them strength to stay united, all these kind of things, to be confirmed. What's it called? But those are the kind of things. As long as wishes are respected, and it's only the people that wish you well that can speak, and at the party, everyone else can stay away and just like be disconnected from the table
Oh, yeah.
on the microphone. The ones that know me will speak. That's all.
Yeah.
Everyone else can party and get drunk.
Yes.
That's it.
All parties and telling
Definitely party, right?
Definitely.
And celebrate. And you know, it's not by force. Everyone mourns in a different way, but celebrate the life.
Yeah.
Because we're like, to witness all of this, to be loved, to have each other, you know, and learn from each other, the good and the bad. I think that's one main thing. Next one, internalized racism. I've heard this term and I'm trying to understand it still. So I've got here that over the years I've heard about this, and got when internalized racism, when people hate on their own and consistently or not, sorry, consciously or not. And I wrote something quickly because I read these things and I'm like, how are people understanding it? I'll try and find it. Here it is. So basically, I imagined those who have internalized racism, those who enable the caste system, enable things like colorism and shadism, are blind to their own assisted suicide, because most cannot see that they have a hand. It's like, I imagined it as, for example, the ones who have who smile at their oppressors and try to overly friendly to people who hate them, like obviously hate them, whether they're smiling at you, but they hate you. I always imagine it as like oppressors reaching out to the oppressed. So the oppressed have the full 5 fingers out in a handshake, and the oppressed have like a 2-finger gun that they don't see.
Yes.
And I see the oppressed as pulling the trigger that's why I say assisted suicide. Because you're reading this repeatedly and repeatedly. And I get it. It's about inclusion. It's about diversity. But there's inclusion and diversity, and there's forced assimilation packaged as diversity. And then things that you see about people hating their own skin, that they can't look in the mirror to accept the features that identify anything that's African, Black, Latin American, anything that's, do you know what I see? That's kind of demonized. For example, I honestly, sincerely believe it's no one's business what you do with your own body choice, as long as it's not harming anyone else. But to hate, consciously or not, people, like the identifiers, features, facial features, body, hair, character, attire, these kind of things. Like,
I mean,
what comes to mind? Because my thing is simple things. You can. Who are the enemies of progress? Because for me, it's like, okay, for example, pictures. Simple things like picture. You got pictures. People who print out their pictures. And that's fine. Have pictures of yourself. But when you don't have any pictures of anyone who looks like you, that are close family members. Sorry, I think that's an issue.
Of course
like
it is.
Smile in your face, but you only have people who don't actually care for you, but you keep your enemies close. Me, I don't believe in that kind of nonsense. It means you're an enemy too.
Unfortunately, living in this kind of society as somebody that's worked in kind of office environments and working amongst people that tend to want to be accepted by people that truly won't accept you anyway, but you bend over backwards to do anything. So they become kind of like the kind of Negro, kind of like always telling on the field Negro, even when he hasn't done something, just so that you can fall in favor with the slave master, you know. And that's what.
You saying plantations still exist?
Oh yeah, it's never really gone away. It's one form or another, So especially working in kind of advertising media type environment can be very difficult, But but nevertheless, that's how it goes, isn't it? Really.
It's very sad for me. It's more sad. I don't like, obviously, but I like to know where I stand with people. I'd rather an obvious racist. And don't tell me there's racists of different skin tone. But what is sad to me is
when
the people who hate on their own, irrespective of your community, when you try that kind of crabs in a barrel thing about what you're saying, I can get it for survival, or you want to get a job, or you want this status thing. But to bring down your own and sell them out in any other, you're seeing it all the time in the news. And you're like, it's scary. That who are you meant to trust? But we know there's good people of all skins everywhere. That's why I'll never lose hope. But it's when you can. So what saddens me when you don't have a reason to do it, and you do it. Concerning me.
So if I think about internalized racism, for me that means that there's self-hatred within you based on your race, literally. So, for example, that example that you gave about, you know, being in an office and you want to do everything for this person, there's for me just a symptom of it, in a sense. As in, you know, when you hate yourself or when you don't like yourself because of your race, because it's been put there because of different things in society, then you start acting out of it, because then you're going to try to be wanting to be part of something else, or you try to bleach your skin, or you try to do all of these things. For me, that's that's symptoms, in a sense. That internal racism itself is you don't like yourself because of your race specifically, in a sense. Because for me, it's. I mean, when you guys were talking, I was just thinking. I was like, this is just like, I don't even know how you expect us to speak short on this topic. because it's like this is just like so deep. Because when I first came here, even though I'm from I was born in a European country myself, I met so many Black women that, for example, when they were younger, they were pretending to be blonde and blue eyes, and I personally, I'm happy that I never experienced that. So when I hear those stories, I'm like, this is just way too deep. And when I say I don't experience it, people sometimes don't even believe me. I'm like, I never really wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes. But the amount of women I spoke to, like in the front of the mirror, and they act like they're like, or when they walk on the road and they're just like skipping and then look in the window shop, and I was like, this is like, like seriously, you look in the mirror and you imagine that you're a different color and blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm like, how deep is that? And it's like you don't even realize it maybe when you're younger, but it feeds through into your adulthood. It doesn't matter how you say it. It's just like when you're saying that, you know, it's fine for everyone to do what they're doing, you know, this big debate that we have, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if it comes to a point that someone is only doing it because they think they're going to be more accepted, or they think they're not good enough, that for me is a whole different issue, because then you have to sort of look within yourself to sort of feel confident. Some people are confident and they just like changing their hairstyle, you know, and that is fine.
They're rocking these colors. It's great. It's not harming.
Exactly. So that harming part is especially when it's internalized racism. You might not hurt people around you, but you're hurting yourself. And that's the thing, and people don't recognize that sometimes. There's little things that filter through in our community. Sometimes when, even from parents, you hear stuff when, you know, sometimes you hear what parents say to children about their hair. So it's not strange that, you know, when things like that.
Color, you know,
and the skin color is big with the bleaching and stuff like that. So the internalized racism. She ain't even helping me out, you know. She's like pulling more. So
I like it.
Listen, I have excuse. I'm not British, so
I'm not British.
I'm a British. I have a good excuse.
It's good to hear perspectives, because you hear the terms or you see the symptoms, as you say, but it's good to know what that is. Any other comments on that, or the next one? Next one. Okay, so language, pidgin, patois, vocab, slang. Any thoughts on that?
I just said it. I don't care. I'm not British. I say whatever.
Remix words, make it up.
It's great to have it, though, you know, because it gives you like a sense of attachment to your kind of culture. You know what I mean? Because although, you know, you may have grown up in Britain and what have you not, but that, as you say, patois, pidgin, etc., is kind of, you know, grounds you to let you know where you're coming from. That's the way I feel anyway. Even though I've never really, I've lived in the Caribbean before, but I've lived in the UK most of my life. But still, I do have it, you know, especially certain occasions when I get angry. it seems to come out so easily.
Don't repeat.
The roots of the word. It's like tracing back.
Yeah.
You know, when I love
Yeah.
to make time one day and just find out the roots of words.
Yeah.
It'll be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You all right? Next one. Similarities or differences you notice between communities. It can be whether it's Europeans and Americans, like Latinx countries, and sorry if I'm getting this wrong, do comment below and correct. If you talk on any of these topics, love to hear your experience. Africans and African Caribbeans, you know, all other different continents and cultures. It could be like including experiences as emigres or immigrants, socializing attire, insults, which are classics, and discipline. I'll tell you really quickly my embassy one. The thing is I have to just clarify this. I have been into embassies, and this is what I say about it's my kind of on a micro level in comparison to an embassy. It just gives an insight for me going through the process, and it gives an insight into small and large scale systems. Because you'll walk in, and I will wait for guidance. There's a obvious system to it. There's somewhere to guide you. You take your ticket. There's different counters. You wait. There is no rush. Depending on which embassy you go to, they have a different pace. Okay, you know this or you don't know this. Now, my thing is, like in life, people do whatever they damn well want to. It's like, for me, I equate it to when you get a manual with an appliance, who reads this appliance? Most people do not, do they? And why isn't it working? There's a shortcut to it. Read the manual. Booklet.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, it's just an insight into experience. Embassy experience. I sit there, I wait, I do not rush. They get to you. But what do people do? They walk in, they get vexed, they want to be seen first. They're not going with instructions given. They take it out on each other. They will step over you to try and get a place. I've seen ticket stubs being taken. There's a number, there's a sequence of doing things. Someone else will send a courier to do this. So it's not actually funny, but to sit and observe, take a book, wait your turn, smooth as anything, because you see the system in place. But you're walking in there and people just doing what they like. So I see it as like when people talk about politics, my friend, show up. Sit down and show up, because you couldn't do it either. We know there's some full politicians and people in local and big government, but that for me is a simple insight. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
It's just like embassy experience is fine. It doesn't have to be regular, apart from having to pay damn money to get to your own country. Stop. Yeah. Anywhere in the world. We'll see. So yeah, so back to any similarities or differences you notice between different communities.
Yeah, big time. All the time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are there similarities that do people thrive on the differences? Simple thing like the comedy events. This is always talked about, you know, this country versus that country, this continent versus that country. It's like, versus what? You're saying the same jokes, different lengths.
Yeah, but people laugh at different things and people understand things in a different way. And that's the difference in culture.
It's the verses I don't like. What are you at odds with? I know it's a gimmick, but it still vexes me you're still using that gimmick.
Yeah, but that's the difference in people, isn't it? They use the thing that is different usually. And that's what they go for. That's what it is. That's what bullies do. They pick the thing that they think is like out of bounds or something, and then they run with it.
And they pick on that.
And then people get vexed or you laugh about it. So I don't know. There's loads of similarities and loads of differences depending on which area.
Let me be clearer. On the posters, it will say Jamaica versus all these islands, Africans versus Caribbeans. This, I'm sure the different communities have their own as well to get people through the door. When you go in, there's more similarities than differences.
Of course,
so it's like a tabloid thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's more sensationalist.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm asking you guys to explain why I'm not comfortable with this versus that all the time. It's always about beef. It's always about against each other. Do you know what I mean?
When really there
Yeah.
isn't many differences, really. You know, obviously they have the accent and the way they speak. Actually, watching a program the other day about certain countries, you know, their accents and how aggressive they are. So, you know, you look at the Jamaican accent, it can sound very aggressive, you know, and then obviously you got like the British, you know, you got the East End kind of accent, then you got the Bajan accent, and it's not very scary at all, you know, no matter what you're saying.
Passionate. Do you know what? Sorry, go on. No, the only one that scares me the most, and I'm sure it's just down to passion.
Yeah.
The passion in the voice and talking is mistaken for being aggressive.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest. The Israeli conversations I've heard in public, I thought they're going to take each other out. The way they're going deep, and it's just like, oh, okay, you're just talking. But they always do that.
Yeah.
And what another thing is like nobody is. I believe every person on this planet is loud. Unless you've got a sore throat, you're loud.
Yeah.
And let's not pretend that you're up and you're better than anyone. You're all loud, especially when you've got alcohol in you.
Yeah.
So don't be looking at us like we should have a volume. We're passionate. Yeah? So yeah, take yourself down a notch or two. Okay, next one. First thoughts on Independence Day celebrations.
Are we independent?
This kind of
question.
Commonwealth kind of nonsense.
Are we really independent?
Yeah.
They're not independent, but tell us that we're Independent Day.
Yeah.
And we think that
we
we're
hold
actually
all
independent.
your resources there.
World Bank, IMF.
Yeah.
Science.
I don't.
No, you said it for me.
Yeah, that's it. Really. I mean, it's great to kind of celebrate, you know, your distance from the kind of Commonwealth, but you know, reality is still there, and you know, you hear, you know, black folks still using that word Commonwealth as though it's a great term to have. You know what I mean? It's not really. It's the money that made off your back over the centuries. And you know, just using it like it's a word of kind of, you know, acceptance. It's just like, you know, it shouldn't be so. You should stop using that word. It's insulting, really. And they, for me,
they're
anyway.
using it with pride, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because even the Commonwealth Games, even that is just like they actually have Commonwealth Games, and people are actually excited about it. And also, England is always so happy when they have so many medals, and I'm thinking, but you have all the flipping resources. So, are you surprised that you know they have more? You have more. You have more. You know, training time and better people to
facilities.
Facilities. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, that kind of things. Yeah. Because obviously we're going to be quicker, but if
doesn't
you don't
stop
have the
Jamaica
facility,
though. Usain Bolt.
When there's economic independence, I'll be happy.
Yes.
There's always going to be someone who's more competitive than the rest. But when there's more of a level playing field, it'll never be level, but you know what I mean? Because there's other people who are more. So the next one I want to talk about is money transfers, informal economy.
Well, that's a whole different story, I tell you.
Money transfers and
informal economies, because there's
there's many relatives. You know, when you go home, you know, to see relatives and so on. You know, the money transfer thing is no joke. It's like a form of income, a salary to some people. And I know obviously things are very difficult, very tough, but you know, sometimes you get loaded with this burden of looking after some individuals in your family, you know, and they're constantly asking for money, and they don't realize actually how difficult it is out here. Yes, you may have a job, but not necessarily have money in abundance to be sending all the time, you know. And that's one thing that gets me, you know, that they don't really fully grasp and understand. I wish you could, you know, just bring them to the UK for a couple of months and let them find a job and work, and they'll realize how difficult it is, you know, because, you know, living, accommodation and all the rest of it, all the other things that go with it and your bills, it makes life very difficult. And that's even for somebody with a above average salary, as they say, you know. So yeah.
But the grass is always greener. I
Well,
don't actually
yeah.
blame people because everyone.
Yeah.
We only realize this later when you're still. You
Yeah.
only realize things, and I do not even blame people when you've only got aspirational things.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about it. The other day I was just finally noticed. Wait, there's all these property programs, lifestyle programs, kind of pimped out programs, and I can understand the kind of really big places you can aspire to that.
Yeah.
Nothing can stop you. But when you don't want that, you realize the kind of they're targeting the demographic of some TV shows. They make it seem like it's average, and then the property price comes up on the screen. You're like, oh, this has nothing to do with most people, majority people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. They paint a grass is greener picture on one hand, and I cannot blame people because these are most educated people who are just thinking grass is greener. There's better on that side. It's just like, no, there isn't.
There isn't.
There isn't.
Yeah.
It goes back to that economic independence. Hold your government accountable, and you could have the same thing.
Yeah.
On your don't, instead of allowing them to create hostile environments there, and poor people running away out of desperation and to another hostile environment. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. So what realities, so great expectations, what realities would you share with anyone thinking of leaving home to live abroad? I think we covered some of it, but
be prepared.
Yeah, I mean,
to go home. Yes, just go where everyone needs to go. Just be prepared. Seriously, just. Well, I know that I'm planning to leave because I ain't dying in no Europe country unless I die like now or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a reality, right? But it's a reality. But I'm just saying, for me, I'm not aiming to stay here. So I would say, prepare yourself in research and because there are possibilities, big and good possibilities to live, even better in many cases if you just research and plan and be open to change. Because some people are like, where are you gonna go? I'm like, well, the world is bigger than London. People actually say that to me, like, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? I'm like, didn't you see that there is a world? But you're
right, open eye as well. I mean, really open eye. There's so many different webisodes and blogs and vlogs and news stories in the mainstream, but mostly online, of people sharing their reality about relocating, even if it's relocating to a different city in your own country. I mean, like you're saying, I mean, all roads lead to the main city in a country, that financial and cultural center. So it's understanding where there's resources are channeled to one place, but read and see what is reality, because there's a lot of movement going on as well, even within your own country, traveling within your own country or abroad. What does someone have to say or do to be an enemy of progress? What have you observed, or what have you experienced, or what have you read? Just be an enemy of it, crab in a barrel, enemy of progress.
Well, sometimes, well, example for myself, starting up on business and things like that, and totally different from my office kind of work, what I was doing previously. And it was like a lot of friends were like, really, that's what you're going to go and do? And I couldn't really understand, but I said, well, there's money in it, there's plenty of opportunities, and over time, I could develop it to be quite a large kind of scale business. But unfortunately, some people, they can't see your vision. So the first thing that they do is dismiss it. So, I mean, sometimes not necessarily deliberately, but obviously, where we've grown up is, you get educated, get a good job, you buy your house, your car, what have you not. But, they don't really tell you to go out there and do your own thing and develop your own thing, because you could be even more successful than working in certain environments.
Own boss.
Yeah, own boss, as they say. So, you know, sometimes your own dreams, you just have to get on and do them, sometimes without telling people, because you get that negative aspect in your ear and you start to doubt yourself, and then before you know it, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So yeah, have to have real tough ears and, you know,
and skin.
and skin.
But also believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
Believe
That's
in
it. That's
yourself,
the key
isn't it?
thing.